Buying new construction right here in Snohomish County. That's the topic of the day. We got lots of questions about building.
Yes, we do.
About builders, what that process looks like, what to expect. And we're going to unpack all of that for you guys during this podcast today. So first of all, a lot of people ask me, like, should I go build a house? Like, should I go build a house? Me being the homeowner buyer. Why would that be problematic? Like, I mean, there's a lot of kind of alarms that go off in my head when people ask me this question.
For sure. Well, I think there's a really big misconception with consumers that they think building a home would be cheaper than buying a home.
Right.
And so we get a lot of inquiries about hey, I'm interested in getting information to build my own home, what the process looks like, what that was. So a lot of people see land, especially really cheap land that may be for sale, and they just assume, oh great, I can just go build something for super cheap on there and spend only $200,000 or $300,000 instead of $500,000 or $600,000. But that's a big misconception because you've got zoning issues, you've got obviously build costs, you've got the project management. There's so many things that consumers just don't know and aren't aware of in the process.
Right. Permitting fees. There's there's so much soft costs that come up. So yeah, I think that question often comes from a spirit of wanting to save money. And people just think, hey, if I build, maybe I'll save some bucks just because I'll be my own general contractor. And I think that if that is your thought process, you should probably have some building experience first of all. You shouldn't this shouldn't be your first house. You're gonna have a very hard time getting financing for that. A bank is gonna want to see that you've partnered and hired a quality general contractor to build that house for you, that they have a good track record, and they're gonna want to see some significant skin in the game in the forms of cash from you as the homeowner and the buyer, basically, of this land, soon-to-be house. And we're talking minimum 20 to 25% down payment for most new construction houses. There's some programs that are less than that, but that's kind of a rule of thumb. You need to get an all-in-one construction loan is typically how people do these. They don't just go get a 30-year normal mortgage. So the financing is totally different than buying a house.
Exactly.
Could not be more different. And more often than not, people end up spending way more building than if they would have just gone and bought a house that was on the market and then made some modifications to that home to make it what they really want.
Exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. I think that's part of that, misconception. People think it's pretty cut and dry. You just hire somebody, they come in and do the project and build it and frame it and finish it just as exactly as you want it. And they just don't know. It's just they just don't understand, don't know, don't have the context to understand how many things go wrong, how many things change, when change orders happen, how they happen, when delays happen, how expensive that can be when you're holding the financing. There are just so many different caveats to building. It doesn't make economic sense for the majority of people.
Right. So, I think it's worth exploring if you have a lot of money and if you can't find what you're looking for and if you're willing to hire a contractor.
Yep.
And you're okay with waiting too, because it's going to take 2 years to get there.
Exactly.
From concept to completion.
Exactly.
So, but let's talk about what if you go buy new construction? Maybe this could be a happy medium. I don't go get a used house. I get something that's brand new. I don't have to be the home builder. I can hire a home builder to do it for me. What are some of the pros and cons of that conversation? I
mean, big pros, obviously, of buying new construction is that nobody's ever lived in the home. It's brand new for you. Yeah, you get to move into it. You could be the first one to own it and to live in it. There's also a lot of warranties that come with buying a new property. So you've got typically a warranty from the builder. You've got appliance warranties, roof warranties, all warranties on the majority of the big items. So you've got a lot of built-in security when it comes to building or buying new construction. Obviously, it's going to be for there's different levels, which I'm sure we'll talk about, of new construction depending on the quality of the builder, and then of course that comes with price points.
Right. Yeah. And we're going to break down, we have kind of a list of builders in our market. We've worked with all of these builders personally, and we're going to kind of share with you good, bad, ugly, kind of our feedback on each one of them. So, but yeah, I think the big benefits of buying new construction, like you said, you got a brand new house. It's under warranty. You're not going to go sink a bunch of money in that home the first year you own it. Probably for the first 5 to 10 years, your cost of home ownership is going to be next to nothing, right? You might spend a little more than a resale house, right? And then the process, of course, looks totally different to buy a new construction home. We're going to break that down a little bit here too in a few minutes. But you can kind of get what you want. Like a lot of builders, they will give you like not a custom home build, meaning like you can build whatever you want with finishes, but you can choose like package A, package B, package C, right?
There's a little bit more customization,
right?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to weigh when it comes to pros and cons of buying new construction, because while you do we just laid out a couple of pros, right? A little bit more customization, brand new, first person to live in it, a lot of warranties involved in it. But what are some cons with buying new construction?
Waiting can definitely be a con. Like a lot of our clients have waited 9 to 12 months from when we go under contract to when the home is delivered. Some of them walk right into a lot of appreciation. I'm thinking of a client in Lake Stevens about a Mainview house. Took Mainview 12 months to finish that house from when we signed the deal. But the home actually priced for $50,000 more than we paid for it, because the market had appreciated, which is pretty awesome.
That's epic. Yeah. I think another big part of that too is like when you are waiting that long, the uncertainty of the timing of the closing, right? Because the builder is going to say, they're going to give you kind of a ballpark of closing and a ballpark of when you're going to move in, but you can't bring that to the bank yet. Like you can't say, yes, sweet, I'm going to be moved in by X time. I've had multiple clients say, okay, where the closing date is potentially August 1st, but then the builder doesn't actually get the final set off, the certificate of occupancy signed off until September 15th. So I've had clients, we've had to kind of figure out and mitigate that uncertain timing. So that's definitely a con for a lot of people, not having the complete certainty of like closing and moving.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Well, I think one other like big benefit, and this is specific to like really big builders, but most of them own mortgage companies as well.
Sure.
And they often give really good financing offers to people that buy their houses. Like the mortgage company is kind of just like secondary to getting people buying the construction homes.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like D.R. Horton comes to mind.
Yes,
with this.
exactly. And they'll throw in a lot of closing costs and be able to help buy down rates. And there's a lot of pros to utilizing the bigger builders, regional builders or national builders, and the mortgage companies that go alongside them for sure.
Right, exactly. All right, so let's break down for people what are the builders in our market, and I'd like to start with kind of the local builders. And on this channel, like the way that we try to keep it is super real and raw, right? So we're going to share with you good, bad, and ugly, and whether people like that, whether they hate that, it doesn't really matter.
No.
It's just facts,
It
right?
is facts, exactly.
So, let's start with local though.
Yeah, so we work with a couple of local builders, very small builders, but pretty more high end for sure. One of our favorites that we've sold, we're on our fourth house that we've sold on a plot for them, is Gorgeous Homes. So Gorgeous Homes, they're a couple here in Snohomish County. They have 4 kids. They're very real, very incredible people. Their homes are incredibly customized. They're beautiful. They don't do tract housing really. It's smaller plats. It's single properties. But they do a phenomenal job. They are kind of the upscale kind of builder. She's very forward thinking when it comes to design, incredible craftsmanship, like perfection to the detail. Like they do smooth wall finish. And if you know anything about construction, smooth wall is incredibly difficult to do. But they do a phenomenal job. So
yeah, their interior design really jumps out at me.
It's incredible. Yeah. I mean, the whole design of the whole home.
Yeah.
And they're, to their benefit, we don't put a property on the market for them until it's 100%. Like
why not?
They want it dialed.
They want it dialed in. Yeah. Awesome. Next up would be Calabrese Signature Homes, local builder. He's built like hundreds of homes in this area. Just really high quality. Again, kind of
Very
like
high quality.
Gorgeous Homes, like a much more higher end build, like wood wrapped windows, 8-foot front doors, a lot of like hard surfaces, just a really nice quality build. Not going to like nickel and dime you on little stuff that you'd assume would be thrown in like garage door openers and things like that. So both of those builders I think are great if they have a community or homes going up in an area you're interested in.
100%.
For sure.
Yeah.
What about other local builders?
I mean, so obviously D.R. Horton is one of the biggest builders in our area. They've taken a lot of real estate, created a lot of plats, a lot of big communities in our area. And they're one of the bigger ones in regards to presence. And then they also have the mortgage company kind of alongside them. So a lot of our clients have bought D.R. Horton homes and done the D.R. Horton.
Yeah, when we
builds.
think about like builder categories, I try to break into like local, like these guys are like locally owned and operated. And then I think about national. I definitely put D.R. Horton in kind of that national bucket, Definitely had a lot of homes sold with D.R. Horton. Most of them have gone really smooth. Some people have had warranty problems where they don't want to come back and fix the warranty issues.
And that's going to come along with the more national builders, right? They don't have as much of a local presence for that kind of stuff all the time. So that is more difficult.
Yeah, and D.R. Horton, definitely if you're thinking about buying one of their houses, you want to look into their financing options because they give out some really juicy incentives usually, which are hard to match or find anywhere else.
Yeah,
So.
I think one thing that D.R. Horton does well is, they have different levels of homes. So they appeal to price points where they'll have kind of I would call it the lower end, the lower finish build, which is more affordable. And then they have kind of a signature series that actually is very, very nice. They increase the finishes, the materials that they use, the cosmetic finishes are really, really nice. So they appeal to different price points, which is really great for people in the market.
Yeah, some people are surprised when they buy a D.R. Horton home that some things you would think would be included are not. I'm going to give you a few examples. Backyard landscaping is not included in most D.R. Horton communities unless it's required by the municipality they're building in. Garage door openers are not included. You're gonna have to go manually open up that door for that $700,000 house you just bought. Things like that, you know. So just something to be aware of. Back on the local side, I would definitely give a shout out to Cornerstone Homes and Acme Homes as well. Both local. I sold a lot of both of their homes. Definitely a lot more Cornerstone. Acme hasn't been as active in the last few years around here, but they both definitely take some serious pride in what they build. Clients have loved their houses, both of these, both Acme and Cornerstone. They have really strong reputations. They do definitely care about how their clients like the home or don't like the home.
Yeah, I would add to that. There's a third one that they're based out of Camino, but they do a lot more on the north end of Snohomish County, Arlington, Stanwood kind of area, and that's Titan Homes. He builds a really, really good product. I've sold one in the smaller cluster community. There's only 6 homes built, but it was just really well done. And he even came back, and there were a couple things that were missed, and he came back and made them right for my clients. So I would also give a shout out to him as well. He did a great job.
Great. And then one that people, a lot of people know locally is Robinette. John Robinette's been around for a long time, built hundreds of homes in Snohomish and Skagit County. Does a decent job, been around for a long time.
Yeah,
so.
They make great resales for sure.
Yeah, they definitely do. All right, let's kind of zoom out a little bit and let's talk about some nationals. You mentioned D.R. Horton already. Pacific Ridge is kind of like the step cousin of D.R. Horton. It's really the same company. A lot of people don't know that. So you're going to see a lot of similarities in the design, the floor plans, like that. A lot of times Pacific Ridge is just a touch more high end, but going to be very, very similar.
Yep.
What else?
You've got Mainview.
Probably the crowd favorite national.
I would say for sure. Mainview tends to have an incredibly modern, minimalist style. So that's kind of what they pride themselves on. They do a very, very good job of maintaining costs and expenditure and calling it minimalist. But the homes are well built. They have a lot of features that people really, really love. They typically have very minimal kitchens with really clean cabinets, really big pantries, and typically do a fireplace out on the deck, which is always really nice in a tract housing community. So Mainview does a really great job. I'd also say that Pulte does a really good job as well.
Yeah, backing up to, actually both of these builders, I would say they're both very high quality for national. Probably the two best when it comes to national level, if you can afford them. Yeah. Mainview homes, you can definitely expect to pay a lot more for than a D.R. Horton home, but they resell very, very well.
They hold their value, for sure.
They're well known to be well built. The build schedule for Mainview is twice what it is for a D.R. Horton house. So D.R. Horton will mass produce homes. I'm talking a 3 to 4 month build schedule is pretty normal for them. And Mainview and Pulte, they're going to be more 8 to 10 months. Yeah. So they slow that pace down. It's not a race to the finish line. They really do take the extra time to put the quality into it, which is pretty cool. And you can see it in the end product. Everything looks really tight. Mainview homes are very stylish. They have that signature big 8-foot sliding door in the back. A lot of Mainview homes, one of the negatives I do hear about them is they really do put big houses on small lots. Yep. And that's not really their fault necessarily. That's just kind of how zoning works in our area. But it's not uncommon to see a 3,500 square foot Mainview home on a 3,500 square foot lot.
Exactly right. Yeah.
The backyard is the deck, basically.
No, you basically have the deck and then a 5x5 patch of sod.
Yes.
That's literally
enough room for the dog to go pee, and that's about
pretty much it. Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So other than that, there's two that I'm going to caution people on, and it's based off of horror stories that I have had with clients. But
experience, firsthand experience.
These are firsthand. These are not just passed along rumors. These are what our clients actually experienced. But that'd be LGI, and that would be Lennar. These are two companies you should go Google, do your research on them. Go look at verified reviews of these companies, and they're not stand-up operations. They're just not. Lennar certainly pretends to be. I don't even think LGI pretends to be to give a shit, to be totally honest with you.
They really don't.
I had a client that had a home under contract with LGI. and the home was vandalized about 2 weeks before the close date, and all the plumbing pipes were cut in the house and it flooded. Like, that can cause severe mold issues. They tried to cover it up, and they tried to force her to still close. And they wouldn't give her earnest money back. They said they're going to take the earnest money. So that's the kind of people you're dealing with, right? Lennar, very similar warranty issues. People buy Lennar homes. Lennar will not come back and address the warranty issues. So just be aware of that. You know?
Yeah. And I mean, we obviously aren't talking bad just to talk bad. Like, we keep it real. So this is about explaining experiences we've actually had, our clients have actually had. And then, of course, making sure that, hey, just do your own research. Google them, look them up in the Better Business Bureau, like, do your own research.
Right. And I'm sure some people have had good experiences, but that's not what we've seen. So there's two other ones to mention. I'd put these as kind of like mid-scale national builders. KB Homes would be one, and Richmond American would be the other one. They're both pretty active in Lake Stevens and Marysville at the moment. Kind of like middle of the road, somewhere between that D.R. Horton build, kind of the lower end, and kind of Mainview on the higher end. They're going to be somewhere in the middle as far as what the finishes and everything else looks like. So that's kind of the breakdown on builders in our area. And there's new builders coming in all the time.
There's a couple little ones.
This is just kind of what's here right now.
Yeah, I would also just give a quick shout out to Hughesby Homes. Like, Hughesby makes a really good product.
Do a great job.
Yep, really, really.
Renee and Darren, they do an awesome job.
Yeah, they do a great job.
I've had multiple clients buy their homes that really like them. So, all right. So what tips do we want to give people? Like, if you're thinking about buying new construction, what are just, some things that you should keep in consideration beyond what we mentioned when we started?
First things first, if you're thinking about actually going and buying new construction, please, please, please bring along a buyer's agent. Like, do not go walk in and then talk to the builder rep on site. Most of them are really great people, right? But especially the bigger communities, most of them are really great people, but they will always have the builder's interest in mind. So it's really important that you are actually working with a buyer's agent who has done new construction or worked with new construction before, who can navigate this with you. that's number one. And number two, do your research on the builder. Like, know what you're walking into when it comes to that particular builder. Do a little bit of research. Look at there's gonna be horror stories and great experiences with every single builder, but just have an idea with what you may encounter so that you're not walking in with your eyes closed.
Yeah, I mean, the agent's comment is an interesting one. Like, obviously we're real estate agents, so maybe we're a little bit biased on this, but a lot of people don't know, like, when you walk in there, that person sitting there works directly for this builder. And if you think that they're going to put your best interest as just a single one-time buyer ahead of their employer, the builder, you are being straight up naive about it. So
100%.
That's where the buyer agent comes in. Like, a buyer agent should know the reputations of all of these builders, be able to help you find the one that's going to be best for you. It's going to match your budget, your expectations, your timeline, all these things. But then they're going to stand up and fight for you, right?
Exactly.
Not only in the initial deal they negotiate, but every step along the way if that builder tries to do things that are not compliant with the contract, right?
Well, that's exactly right. Like, you have to think about, you're walking in, that person is typically paid a salary. Literally, they're typically on salary by the builder. So if you have questions, they're going to be answering to sell you into buying that property. And then if there are things that go wrong, depending on the reputation of the builder and, of course, the integrity of them, like, they could or could not disclose to you things that they really should, or sell you into things, or not explain to you as clearly things that you really should know. So that's when the benefit of a buyer's agent really does come in, to be able to represent you on that transaction.
Yep. Another tip that I would give people, you have to realize the process is very different when you're buying new construction. You're typically gonna fill out what's called a one-page offer form on a home that you like, and that offer form is something that's been created by the builder's agent. And that just summarizes kind of the deal points of your offer, like the price, the terms, the financing, whether you're a contingent buyer or not, how much money you're putting down, things like that. It's just like the high level view of your offer. And that's going to be the starting point of negotiating for your offer that your agent's going to use, go back and forth. Once you've got that one-page offer agreed to, if you get that agreed to, that is, then you'll then move to an actual contract. But the contract you're going to sign with the builder is very different than a normal purchase and sale agreement between buyers and sellers. Yeah. What are some of those key differences that people should be aware of? I
mean, in regards to the one-page offer especially, typically the earnest money is a set amount, whereas if you're buying a retail home, you can kind of negotiate, or we typically will say between 1% and 3% is ideal for earnest money. Yeah. You're going to go to a builder and they're going to say, earnest money is $10,000. So if you don't have $10,000, you're not getting that offer accepted, period, right? So that would be one, for sure.
Yeah. Anything else?
I think we're going to probably move into inspections, but that was what I was going to bring up.
There's not going to be an inspection contingency.
Exactly. So there's not going to be an inspection contingency in that contract. The builder will say no, but we would still highly recommend having an inspection performed, especially on brand new construction.
Yeah, the thing that comes to my mind on this, as far as like the contract goes, is that you have to remember when you're buying a resale home that the forms that you're going to sign, that we're going to fill out as agents, are created by our MLS, right? Our MLS is attorneys. So they're not really in favor of the buyer or the seller. They're what we call a neutral contract, okay? So they're equally favorable.
Yep.
When you're signing a builder's contract, it is the exact opposite of that.
Exactly.
So it's a one-sided contract that is completely in favor of the builder. And to give you an example of kind of what some of those terms could look like, D.R. Horton is pretty well known, you know, and they just put this in there. It's your responsibility to read it in your agent's job, but they will put a contract date in there that you have to close the home by. And if you don't close it on that date, they will fine you a cost per day, like between $150 and $200, depending on the price of the house.
Per day.
Right. But if they have a delay, you can't do anything about it. So
highly in favor of the builder.
Yeah. So you just got to remember, you know, and some of that makes sense. Like, what if there's construction delays, things outside their control? But you have to have your eyes open. And this is where your agent really earns their keep with you, is to being able to explain these things to you, not just signing the contract, but understanding what you're agreeing to. That's the most important thing that I can tell people.
100%. And that's when, like I mentioned earlier in this episode, is, you know, when there may be delays with the build. So say like the projected close date is August 1st, throwing that out there, and they run into some delays, or there's a delay on some of the materials coming in to finish the build, or the inspector for the county didn't get out soon enough, so they don't have a certificate of occupancy yet, so they can't legally close, and they're delaying 2 weeks. Like, you can't do anything about it. You have no recourse. They're not going to give you money back. And like, you're just stuck waiting.
Yeah, you might have nowhere to live.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas if they are ready to close on August 1st and something happened on your side and you've delayed somehow, or you're still paying rent, or you weren't able to get out of something, if you do not close on that day, if you don't have your funds available on that day, now you're paying $100, $200 or more per day until you can get it closed. It's those little things, and it's not every contract, but it's those little things that you need to make sure you know and are aware of beforehand.
What about if you're buying a new construction home and you're selling your current house? Like, how can that be problematic?
Oh man, I've done this multiple times with multiple clients. There's a couple of things that you can navigate depending on so many different factors, depending on the builder, depending on the time of year, depending on...
The thing I'm thinking is like, okay, like
timing.
Most builders will take your contingent offer, but they're going to require you to list your house right away.
Yeah.
And they might not be done building for 9 months.
Exactly.
That's a hugely problematic scenario.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what I was going to say. It's like, there's only been one time ever, and it was during a slower time of year in a market that was a little bit slower, where I was able to negotiate a delay of the contingent property going on the market. So I got my clients under contract, of course, contingent on the sale of their home. Well, I also negotiated into that contract that they didn't have to list their property for 6 weeks to kind of try to close some of that gap, because the home wasn't started until the contract was mutual. So you're working with so many different timing variables and variables with the builder. So you're working with an experienced buyer's agent. That's why it's so important on these ones, because we were able to kind of navigate the timing, working with them directly. We put contingencies on our side in, like we will list the house 5 days after the permit is issued. Like, there were so many different things that we built into the contract, and that was really helpful for my clients. But they still ended up having, I want to say 10 or 11 days between when they had to be out of their home that I had negotiated as much rent as I could, to when their home was actually completed. So they were still, there was a couch surfing day. They went on vacation for a couple days. Like they had to get creative. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Typically what I will do on new builds is if the home's not done, or it's not less than 3 months away from being done, I will just go non-contingent, and I'll just pick when we're going to list the house, being conservative on how much market time we need. You know what I mean? Which is, it's risky. Yeah. Because what if your house doesn't sell, right? Yeah. But we've gotten it sold every time.
Yeah.
So that's where execution comes in.
100%.
So anything else that people need to know? We covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah, we did cover a lot of ground. I think big key takeaways, of course, are number one, please use a buyer's agent if you're going into new construction. Don't just rely on signing the contract with the builder rep. And number two, make sure that you understand the contract you're walking into, and the builder's reputation. Those are huge. 2
little tips I'll give you people. One, and you kind of touched on this earlier, don't go to new construction plats without your agent. If you do, the way that builders work is they can actually take you over, and now you don't have representation.
Exactly.
Like your agent is bypassed. So don't ever go to new construction meetings without your agent. Bring your agent with you. That's really their job, is to be there with you along the way. And then the inspection thing, which you kind of touched on as well. Most builders will not allow you an inspection contingency, but you can still do an inspection for informational purposes a couple of days before the closing date. And then anything that comes up in there that's a code issue, most builders will still address it.
Exactly right.
Kind of put on the punch list, you
Yep.
know? So,
100%.
what about blue tape walkthroughs? Like a lot of builders do that.
Yeah.
What should people expect there?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So again, a couple days before closing, you want to build in, if you're working with an experienced buyer's agent, you want to build in the ability to do a walkthrough several days before closing, just to make sure that everything is as the contract states. So, a detailed builder addendum, a detailed contract for new construction is going to outline the appliance level, like the either model numbers, like the actual numbers of the appliances that are included, but as well as the finish level of the quartz on the countertops and all of these different things within the home. So doing that blue tape walkthrough is an opportunity for you to double check that everything is as the contract should state. And it also is going to give you an opportunity to make sure that everything in regards to the actual finish work, so there aren't cracks in the drywall already, the doors are opening and closing properly, the plumbing is working, like everything is as it should be. And then most builders, of course, will come through and make sure that the lights are working and that the drywall touch-ups are done and all those little things. That's your opportunity to do so. If you walk through and you don't mention any of those things and then close, some of those things can still be addressed within that first year warranty situation, and they will. But highly recommend, as long as you're working with that real experienced buyer's agent in that one, throughout that first year, most builders will come back at the 1 year, as long as you have like detailed notes or actually are keeping track of the things that need to be addressed. I don't want to say don't bug the builder, but you're going to have a better relationship with that builder or the builder's representative. There we go. If you're not bugging them every other day with every little thing, right? Like keep a list, and then once a month or at the end of that first year, bring that builder back just one time to address all of the things, and you're going to have a much better experience.
I like a 90 and a 365,
Like that,
right?
yeah,
So within the first 90 days of moving in, you're going to find things you didn't see before, and you're going to want those things addressed, or they're going to really start to bother you. Yeah. And so kind of keep that running list of things, how that be the 90-day punch list that they come back to knock out. Sometimes it could be settling cracks and things like that too. And then definitely at the 1 year, because after 1 year, guys, a lot of the warranty is going to drop off for most builders. So you've got to be aware of that. So hope this was helpful. If you got questions about new construction, put your comments below. We will be happy to address those or talk about them in a future podcast. And we'll be back next week. If you want to stay in touch with us, if you want to contact us, we are at meetthenovaks.com online. I'm at the real Mike Novak on Instagram.
And I am at Rachel Novak.
See you next week.